Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's James again. I'm here with Studio Central, and we're doing a Facebook Live, another creative technique. This week we've seen Marissa, we saw Kristen, I think we have Holly coming up again this week, so we're going to be just trying to show you different techniques, different creative things that we do as artists. So we all work for Artbeat Studio, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of what we are. We are an organization that really believes in the power of art and the ability of art to help us all through personal healing. And whatever stage of life that you're in, it's something that just really is good for your mind. So I know it's good for my mind. But Marissa's watching, just repping the tea again. So I guess last time I did this was last Thursday, and I did abstract monochromatic painting. So this week I decided, I was sort of thinking about it, mulling about in my head, like what I could do this week as my technique, what I could expand on. And I was really in a bit of a funk, like I was in a bit of I couldn't find any inspiration. And I kept thinking about like mediums, I kept thinking acrylic, I kept thinking watercolor, and nothing was really clicking with me. And then I thought that word, and it kind of, I went with it, the word inspiration. And I think sometimes it's hard to find inspiration as artists. All of us have that moment when it's kind of like, you look at the blank canvas and you're like, what am I even doing? Or you set out to do something and then you start to work on it and you're like, I don't like any of this. So what can we do to find inspiration to work on the canvas in front of you? So I thought today I'd share one of my main techniques as an artist that I use to find inspiration. And I guess the best way to describe it is sort of abstracting the world around you, taking pictures, whether it's landscape, whether it's urban, and sort of breaking down that realistic picture into something that is abstract. So I thought I'm gonna work in watercolor today. So I'll show you what I brought to the table. Just to begin, before we sort of get into what I'm going to be doing, I can show you what you need to do this. I also made some coffee, a little afternoon pick-me-up, which I think we all need sometimes. Okay, so since I'm going to be working in watercolor, there's sort of a bit of a two-step process to this, but I'll show you what I have here to work with and what you can potentially work with. Okay. Just going to adjust this. Okay. Ooh, last time I did this, my phone fell. So hopefully it doesn't fall. Hey, Kristen. Good to see people are online and checking this out. Okay, so since we're working with watercolor, one thing I like to work with is it is cold press. It's block. It's watercolor, but in blocked form. So I'll show you. So this is an unopened package. I'm not going to open it, but this is Canson. You can get this from Michael's or from Artist Emporium, or hand-me-downs from your mother, as I do. And then this is another option of watercolor paper, Winsor Newton. So this is, anyone who paints with watercolor is probably familiar with this. Okay, so this is the open example of watercolor block. So this is a block of watercolor paper. So what's sort of interesting about this is if you have limited space, which for example today I have very limited space, this is sort of nice. So you'll notice you open it, okay? So it's the watercolor paper here, but it's actually sealed all the way around. So basically what this does is you can physically paint onto this with your watercolor, and you don't have to worry about peeling it off or taping it to the table. You just open your block of watercolor paper and then you just paint your picture. Then when you're done, there's actually a little space up here. You put like an X-Acto knife or something sharp, like even a key, pop it in, break that seal, and then it just peels off. So when you're done, this whole picture will just peel off, and then you're ready to start on your next paper. So it's very convenient. I enjoy working with blocked watercolor paper. I know you can get this definitely at Artist Emporium. This is where I got this pack from. Again, this is actually Strathmore, just so you know. And pretty standard. I can't remember the price point, but I feel like it's not cheap, but it's really nice to work with. So the other thing we need to start is a pencil. So these are those sort of fancier Stadler, however you pronounce it, pencils. Or you can just use sort of that standard, pencil you get from school. It really doesn't matter whether it's sort of the in quotes artist grade or if it's just, a regular grade pencil. Whatever you have on hand. We're just going to use the pencil to give a basic sketch onto the watercolor paper. Yeah, so that's sort of the beginning. And then we have 2 cups of water. This is for mixing your paints. Yes. Okay. Then I have over here, I almost don't want to talk too fast because, I reviewed my last one I did and I felt like I talked kind of fast. So I'm trying to slow it down, enjoy the process. Here we have some brushes. So this is watercolor brushes and whatever you happen to have on hand, various sizes. I have that bigger size. There's a fan brush. We all love a fan brush. Okay, I'm gonna put that over here. And then for watercolors, what I like to, this is just an option, but this is your basic watercolor set. You can see that. You can actually get this at Dollarama. So really it's accessible. It has 8 full colors. This is something you can use if you have at home. It's really great. And yes, fan brush. Marissa, you know what's up. And I see Kevin is here. Hi, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you there. But for today, what we're going to use, or what I'm going to use, is I really like this Winsor Newton watercolors. So it's super cute. The nice thing about Winsor Newton is they have a good, the opacity, like the density of the watercolor itself is really nice. So I find when you paint with Winsor Newton, you get like a real, you can really get some nice coverage on your paper. Because I know watercolor, it's very sort of lighter. Oh yeah, right on. Yes. I see that, Marissa. And yes, Kristen, that's a big part of this conversation I think that we've all been having is the accessibility to art. And sometimes it may feel like it's not accessible, and sometimes we have to work with what we have. And that sort of can be the fun of it, I guess, sometimes. But so you can see some of the colors that I've already opened. It's really cute. All right. Oh, that didn't sound good. I believe my cat is in the background knocking things over. We're at my place right now. So if you hear funny noises in the background, it's the cat because I'm not giving her any attention. Anyways, okay. Yes. So one of the first steps with this idea that I use to get inspired, this is like something I use whenever I'm at my studio. If I'm here, it's something I use a lot of the time to get myself in the mode of creativity, to get your brain sort of working in that way. So what I do is, I think I'm just trying to get my computer to load up so I can show you a picture. Okay, just 1 second. All right. This over there. Okay. So we're basically going to take a picture and then we're going to draw some of the basic shapes from that like realistic photograph, and then we're going to do that on the canvas, and then we're going to paint in those shapes. So it's basically taking, like, blocking out a photograph and then just painting those chunks. So what I chose, since we're in Winnipeg, is a skyline of the city. So I'll show you over here. Yes, Kristen, my cat, knocked over a bunch of stuff in the background because that's what she likes to do. Okay, can we all see this? I don't know. Let me move this out of the way. All right. All right, so this is great. Awesome. Yeah. Send me a like if you can see this. So this is a picture of the Winnipeg skyline. So there's my canvas. So basically what I want to do is I want to draw the basic shape of this picture onto here. So we're not looking for details. We're not looking to get the clouds in there. We're not looking for the detail of the trees. We're simply looking for the line that the buildings take over the skyline. Okay? So we're simply going to take across our canvas, we're going to abstract this one element from this realistic photograph onto our watercolor paper with a pencil. So I'm going to start here, then work my way across, and I'll do on here. So I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. So I'm going to keep that picture of the city in mind. Ooh, right on. That's good. That looks nice. Cool. I'm getting lots of like afternoon lights, so it's very nice. Okay, so what do we got going on? Okay, so I'm gonna start. For me, I'm gonna go right to left. It really doesn't matter how you like. I'm left-handed, so I always like work like this. So I'm just gonna start doing this. So I'm basically starting here with my pencil. I'm just gonna sort of do this outline of the buildings all the way across my paper, okay? And it's just nice, you know, doing these types of techniques kind of get you in the mindset to be creative. And that's my big message behind today's technique, is ways we can make ourselves feel inspired and get those creative juices flowing, because it is so hard, you know? Like, I feel like, I think I said this last time, but just, you know, when you get inundated with all the news and all the stuff around you, it's so easy to, like, I don't know, lose. It's easy to become uninspired. So this is something that I hope you can use to inspire yourself. So I'm already working on this little Richardson building, the big one. So the cool thing about the idea of abstract art, and I just want to make sure I reiterate this as well, abstract art is completely subjective. So it is working from your point of view. So it really is, I don't want to say there's no right or wrong, but there really is no right or wrong. Like what you are drawing onto your paper is right to what you are doing. So it might look sloppy. It might not look exactly like the skyline. And you know what? That's okay, because we are trying to abstract the images that we're seeing in front of us. So sometimes I tend to like make my lines a little bit, Hey, Cassandra. Good to see ya. Ooh, last time I did this, my phone dropped. Okay. So you can see my lines. Like I'm not trying to do these perfect, like I'm not using a ruler. I'm just sort of like going with the flow and letting these lines sort of find themselves, right? So that's going down like that. So this is the Richardson building here. This is that, I don't know. I feel like this building changes names like every year. There we go. Okay. So now I'm gonna go up to here. So I try to like just be loose with my sketching, loose with my lines, not to be too rigid. This goes like that. And then going down. And then it looks like there's a crane in the background, so I'm just gonna like do that. So you can see there's like a crane way in the distance. You probably can't see it, but all I did was I just did that. Just made like a super loose T. And then more buildings. And okay. So now you can see we have, that's my version of the skyline from what we see on the laptop. So really easy, just a simple like line. And now we're gonna start our picture from this. So now, I'm gonna move this back over here. So usually for this, what I like to do now is I do like to reference some of the colors that I see. So when I sit down to paint, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna simply paint this blue. I'm gonna sort of draw it across my canvas. So I'm just gonna reflect that same color and pull that across here with the blue. So for me, what do I have? I have this one right here, I think is gonna work well, ultramarine blue. So if you have a watercolor that's similar to an ultramarine, I think that would work really nicely as a sky picture, or as a sky color. The cute thing about these Winsor Newtons is they're actually little pockets of color. So I just have to open this plastique covering, which isn't super awesome for the environment, but I don't know. Okay. Oh, I'll point out one thing too. As I'm working on this, I ran out of some stuff to cover my table, so I didn't want to get paint on my table itself, and I just found an old piece of foam core in my spare bedroom. So I just have this foam core. Works as a way to protect my table, protect the wood. Okay, so I think I'm going to use my bigger brush because I want to get a lot of coverage, and so I'm just going to we got our water, we got our picture in the background. Okay, got the paints here, you can see. Beautiful. Okay. So you do need a palette to mix the paints, and the nice thing about these little compact things is the palette's actually a part of it. So if you don't, sometimes what works really well is if you have a cereal box and the wax paper, you can actually tape it to the cereal box after it's done. You cut up the box and you put the wax paper onto it and you tape it, and you can use that easily as a canvas, as a way to mix paint. So that's something I've used before. So I'm just going to dab at this blue, this ultramarine blue. Nice, beautiful, rich color from Winsor Newton. I really want to get this nice and wet, get it nice and get my brush full of that beautiful watercolor paper. And I'm just going to start here and kind of work my way over here. So, ooh, yeah, that's a nice blue. Nice, very cool. You know, while I'm doing this, you know, I always forget to give little shout outs, or little hey acknowledgements, but how's everyone doing? If you have time to respond, I'd love to hear how everyone's doing. How are you doing today? How's everyone's day going? It started out kind of okay, and now it's very overcast. I'm not sure. Bit dreary. Kevin, sounds like Kevin's doing good. Right on. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this blue of the sky all the way down to the edge of the building outlines that I've made. And just gonna try to get it as close as I can. And so this idea of using a picture like this really applies to anything. Like, I just chose the Winnipeg skyline because I thought that that's like very something we can all relate to. But what I've used in the past is I've used pictures of from back home, like my parents' house, old buildings. And I've sort of pulled shapes from those pictures and done this technique of painting around them. So, and it's just really helped to focus my mind, you know? Because as you're doing this, I feel like I can begin to think about, oh, well, I'm doing this technique with the buildings, like, oh, this maybe would look good with, if I did this with a street, you know, or if I did this with the dominoes across the street, like that has a cool shape. So it's sort of just a way to sort of kickstart your creative mind. So I basically just covered the sky in the ultramarine blue. And I want to reiterate, again, we're abstracting this picture. So we are so I think you can see that, eh? Yeah. So yeah, we're just abstracting the sky. And then Kristen, that's a great question. That actually leads into what I was going to talk about. Kristen just asked, Kristen, what is your technique there to create different depths in the sky? So basically, what I do is it depends on how wet my brush is and then how much color I pull from it. So for this part right here, it's a bit darker. I pulled a lot of paint and I really sort of dabbed at it quite a bit. And then when I put it onto the canvas, it's more opaque. And then when you kind of just dab a bit of water without the color, then you can start to pull that color across. So then what you end up getting are these sort of variations, sort of similar to what I did with my last technique with monochromatic abstracts, where you can create all these different tones and textures using just one color. So I think this it can be a really good technique when you're limited with perhaps paints that you have. You know, maybe you only have a couple of working paints like a blue and a yellow, so you don't have that option to mix or create new hues with mixing paints. So this is a good way to sort of create that depth and those different textures with just using one color. So all right, so now what I want to do is you can see we have the skyline there and then the sky. We're gonna start to, let's pull up this picture, and I want to pull the colors from the bottom half. Okay. So it looks like the colors here we have sort of like brownish, sort of yellowy oranges. So I have a burnt umber. I have a burnt umber and I have a burnt sienna. So those are both very earthy tones. So I think we're going to use the burnt sienna and the burnt umber to sort of mix and fill up this space here. And what I want to do today, since we're abstracting this landscape from the picture, I'm just going to work with the burnt sienna and the burnt umber, and we're going to pull that up, and we're actually going to pull those colors into the skyscrapers itself. So and you know what, I had this thought right now of doing the earth and the ground and then pulling it into the actual city itself. So that's sort of a good example of how when you're working in abstract and you're not limiting yourself to a very specific way of painting, you can have that creative idea and think, oh, maybe I should just use this color and pull it into the skyscrapers versus, you know, have a solid ground color and then have that skyscraper color, if that makes sense. But I'm just gonna have a little sip of my coffee. Okay. All right. So let's see, what did I say? I said burnt sienna and burnt umber. That's such a good word, burnt umber. It has lots of good mouth forms around that word, umber. Let's see if I can get this out. Struggle is real. Oops, there we go. And there we go. Okay. So this is the burnt sienna that I'm opening. So you can see taking this little guy out of the pack again, this little person out of the pack. And I've got the burnt umber with that beautiful word again. Ugh. Oh my God, you guys get to see me struggle. This is my daily life right now. If one action could exemplify my existence, it's trying to open little paint packs in front of an unknown audience. That's my life. Okay. That was a joke too. I was trying to be jokey. Okay, beautiful. So I'll just show these colors here. So very sort of those earthy tones. And you know, I might even pull this color in. Yeah, so I like this. Umber is dark and then you get the lightness with the sienna, but I think I'm gonna use some of this color to pull in to sort of lighten it up. Also, I also sometimes feel like this is a makeup tutorial, you know, like with my palette. Okay, so we're gonna rinse off our brush that we were using. And then let's get this shot nice. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start with the darker one, just to see sort of how this is going to play out. Oh, I grabbed the lighter one. And you know what? That's okay. I accidentally grabbed the wrong color, but I'm okay with that. We're just going to start to dab at the bottom and pull this brown color across. So while it's nice when you have the watercolor wet on your canvas, you can pull other colors and they will mix sort of on the palette itself. I know Kristen and Marissa have both sort of shown this technique, and it's really, I think it's a great technique to reiterate. I'm actually gonna pull some of this orange. So you just, the wet colors really blend and bleed together. I think that's like a good word. When you have watercolor wet on your canvas and you combine two colors, they really bleed together nicely. You know, it's nice to do this. It's nice to have this community. I'll say, like, today I definitely had a strong day of isolation. With our work, we have the luxury of having video conference calls in the morning, which is just a beautiful way to engage and start your day. But even without that, there's still a strong sense of isolation. And it's easy to sort of let that get to your head, right? And I find being able to come here with all of you and paint and show this sort of technique I use for myself is really, it's just, I feel it right here in my heart. So it's really, I'm happy to be here today and to be doing this with all of you. So I'm just gonna pull this. So this is the sienna I'm putting on right now. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but you can see that sort of lighterness. So what I've been doing is, this started out as that darker, this actually was the burnt umber, and then I put some of the orange on while it was wet, and those colors bled together really nicely. You can see that sort of nice transition. And now I'm going to be working with the burnt sienna over here. So now it's going dark, and then it's, so just to keep engaging these very earthy tones. Sometimes I feel like you have to go really fast because it's watercolor and it dries really fast. And that's true. It's very true. Sometimes working with watercolors is like a race against time. So again, I'm just working with the sienna again. So I'm gonna get a little bit more sienna. So this is me, I'm pulling a lot of paint off of this canvas, right, or off of this this paint right here. So I'm just gonna fill my brush up with the watercolor. And what I wanna get is a darker, more opaque burnt sienna to put over top of what I have on the canvas. So now you can see this is all burnt sienna. So we have the lighter and that's burnt sienna. Now this is the same color, but you can see how dark it is because I pulled a lot of it off and I really soaked this brush with that color. So you get these sort of really cool dynamic levels to your color to give this base sort of a lot of life, you know? Okay, so I'm gonna use some water now. I'm gonna use this to lighten it up and pull. So I think I'm gonna start pulling this color in towards the buildings. So actually using the burnt sienna and the umber, maybe some of the orange just to pull in and get the details of the building. You can see there. So I'm already pulling the color up to follow that line of the building. So I'll show you once I get this one of the bigger skyscrapers. Maybe I'll do an orange. Yeah. Yeah, makeup tutorials. We should, once we run out of ideas with our art techniques, we'll just move into makeup tutorials. I'm down. Okay. So for this one building, I chose to just really make it really stand out. I thought that would be sort of fun. So you can kind of see, you can see how the colors from the base are sort of, you are creating that line of the skyline is taking, it has a very organic feel to it. So, so I'm going to use a bit more water because I want it to, as I said, I keep using the word bleed, but like have this bleed into these colors really nicely. Lots of dabbing, lots of dabbing. So it's cool. We are literally, or I am, you are, wherever you are right now, we're all abstracting this picture. So once I get this down, okay, cool. So let's just pause for a second. So I know I keep using the word abstract. I keep using that word, and it's sort of like, it can be a very vague and, like I said, very subjective word, but this is just to show you the progress. So there's the city of the picture, and then, so that's kind of what we got going on right now. So you can totally see, like, this is what I mean by the idea of abstracting your landscape. So what we have here is a realistic photograph. That's Winnipeg. We can see the TD building, the Richardson building, the sky, classic Manitoba scene. And now here, we've pulled some of the major images, that skyline, we put it onto our canvas, and now we're just sort of playing with it. So you can still see the skyline, but it's completely, it's become an abstract picture. And it's become exactly like how you want it to be. And it's neat because, like I said, this is the main technique I use to inspire myself when I'm in my studio. Because there's lots of times I get to my studio and I feel like I'm in a funk creatively. You know what I mean? So this is just sort of goes back to the idea of mindfulness. This goes back to the idea of grounding. And it's a technique that I use to find, to navigate inspiration inside of myself, to inspire me. Because you can do it, and then as you're doing it, all those thoughts, you get those creative thoughts going. So, all right, so I'm going to keep working on this. Okay. So I have orange. I'm going to pull some darker colors. I'm going to pull the umber. Yeah, I'm going to pull the umber. I'm going to do the dark one right beside this lighter one. Pull that color down. some of that over here. Follow those lines of the skyline with your brush. It's okay if it goes over the line, like it's just, there's sort of a very looser, it's like a very loose, you want to feel loose and free on your canvas when you're doing this. So I'm going to pull this color into here just to fill up the space a bit. Pull this color around just to fill it up a bit. And I like how you get this sort of bit of that watermark, that line. And watercolor has this beautiful effect. Watercolor has such a beautiful effect, has such a soft effect, and it also just there's an unexpected quality to watercolor, which I think is beautiful when you're trying to let yourself go on the canvas, because watercolor sort of forces you to let go. You can't, it's not like acrylic. I feel like when I paint with acrylic, I'm very controlled and there. I feel like when I paint with acrylic, it's very controlled. If I work with watercolors, it's very controlled. Yesterday, Marissa, you should check it out. She did a creative technique on chalk pastels, and again with that you have a lot more control, you have a better understanding of where that pastel is going on the paper, whereas with watercolor you put it onto the canvas and sometimes it drips, sometimes it runs, but then you get these really beautiful effects, and that's all a part of that the process of watercolor painting. And yeah, thank you, Cassandra. Yeah, and I want this to be, like, to me, I feel like I've created a finished picture, but this, for me, is an exercise to get my mind in the creative mindset. So using art itself as an exercise to, get you into that place where you feel inspired to create. And that's the finished product here. I'm just going to show this again because I think this is such a cool, I love when you see the finished work. Okay, so we got da-da-da. So there we go. That's sort of the finished idea. This is a technique I've been using for years to help me find a sense of inspiration. And just as a brief overview, taking a photograph, pulling the major shapes. This picture, for example, is the skyline. And then putting that major shape in pencil on the watercolor paper, and then using colors to paint around that shape. And what you end up doing is abstracting this landscape. So you get like a really cool sense of what you can do, and at the same time, hopefully trigger that inspiration to move on to the next canvas and to move on to the next idea and the next experimentation. And you know what? I like how this really turned out. I love this color use. I love how the color pops. And having the two, like the light, darker, and then darker. It's like, I think it feels organic, and I hope that you had fun watching along. I can see Win. Hi, Win. Hope everyone has been having a good day. Chopping my head off. So I just want everyone to have a good rest of your day. I hope that you can glean something from this technique. Like, this isn't the be all and end all of what you need to do to find inspiration, but this is a technique that I've used for years that has been really healthy in my creative process and really bringing my mind to a place of creativity. Because as artists, I find sometimes when I'm not creative, when I don't feel inspired, it's kind of a downer, and it can kind of really make you feel down. And this is just something, an exercise that I use to pull myself out of that and to hopefully ignite that creative fire that we all want to have. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I'm going to press the old finish button. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Stay well, stay safe.